Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Vrinda Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada Salgurudev ki jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Shivani from Ashland, Virginia.
Hare Krishna, Shivani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji. This is Kamadiki Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kamadiki Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Radha from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji, all glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Dali.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our Guru Maharajas. All glories to the assembled devotees here. This is Nina from Naperville, Chicago.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna. Is there anyone else who would like to introduce?
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, so glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. This is Kirti Das and Haridasi.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Shyamagari Devidasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Shamagori Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna. Is there anyone else who would like to introduce? So today's class will be given by Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji. We are very fortunate to have her, and Mataji is going to enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Verse 38. So Kirtida Sundari Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Mataji, thank you so much for your time and association. And now I hand over the call to you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
And warm welcoming all the devotees. So, Hare Krishna. So I'm not very well prepared for the class, but as was given the opportunity, I just took up and will share some, some whatever I can share. I would like to share on this.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, your voice is very low.
Okay. Just wait a minute.
Yeah. Her voice was very loud.
Now is it okay, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Okay, so thank you all so much for joining. And without further delay, we'll start our Srimad Bhagavatam class. Just give me a second. I hope somebody will share the words because.
Yes, Mataji, Indu Mataji will share.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Shanvatam Sa Katha Krishna Punya Shravanam Kirtanam Hidyante Stava Bhadrani Vidhnoti Suhat Satam. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, verse number 38. So we all know that this fifth canto, all the verses, they are in a form of a paragraph. And there is no set meter to recite, these verses. Almost the whole fifth canto is just like that. So it has to be read in a form of a paragraph. Paradevata prasadhi ghatama pratyameshwaranu pravartebhe putrabhe imam yathadayam dayam vibhajaya bhukta bhogam cha mahishim mritakam iva saha mahavibhutim apahaya swayam nihita nirvido hridi grihita hari Viharunubhavo Bhagavato Naradasya Padavim Punar Evanusasara. Translation. By the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Maharaj Priyavrata reawakened to his senses. He divided all his earthly possessions among his obedient sons. He gave up everything, including his wife, with whom he had enjoyed so much sense gratification, and his great and opulent kingdom, and he completely renounced all attachment. His heart, having been cleansed, became a place of pastimes for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he was able to return to the path of Krishna consciousness, spiritual life, and resume the position he had attained by the grace of the great saint Narada. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka, Chaito Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, as soon as one's heart is cleansed, the blazing fire of material existence is immediately extinguished. Our hearts are meant for the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that one should be fully Krishna conscious, thinking of Krishna as he himself advises. Manmana bhava bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. This should be our only business. One whose heart is not clean cannot think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. But if one can gain place for the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart, he very easily becomes qualified to renounce the material attachment. Mayavadi philosophers, yogis, and jnanis try to give up this material world simply by saying, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This world is false. There is no use of it. Let us take to Brahman. Such theoretical knowledge will not help us. If we believe that Brahman is the real truth, we have to place within our hearts the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, as Maharaj Ambarish did. Savai Manha Krishna Padaravindayo. One has to fix the lotus feet of the Lord within his heart. And then he gets the strength to be freed from material entanglement. Maharaj Priyavrata was able to give up his opulent kingdom, and he also gave up the association of his beautiful wife as if she were a dead body. However beautiful one's wife and however attractive her bodily features, one is no longer interested in her when her body is dead. We praise a beautiful woman for her body, but that same body, when bereft of a spirit soul, is no longer interesting to any lusty man.
Maharaj Priyavrata was so strong that by the grace of the Lord, that even though his beautiful wife was alive, he could give up her association, is exactly like one who is forced to give up the association of a dead wife. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadish kamay mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatad bhakti rahitu ki tvai. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. For one who desires to advance in spiritual life, attachment to material opulence and attachment to a beautiful wife are two great impediments. Such attachments are condemned even more than suicide. Therefore, anyone desiring to cross beyond material nescence must, by the grace of Krishna, be freed from attachment to money and woman. When Maharaj Priyavrata became completely free from these attachments, he could again peacefully follow the principles instructed by the great sage Narada. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripahatam ham vande Shri Guru Deenatarinam Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for all of your wonderful association and very, very beautiful verse from Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam. And so before I begin, I would seek blessings, prayers, wishes. Please shower your heartfelt blessings, prayers, and wishes so that I may speak something relevant to this subject matter as instructed by Vyasadeva, as beautifully quoted by Srila Prabhupada in his purport. I may be able to convey the right relevant message and that may be pleasing to all the Vaishnavas' ears. So please, I really beg down to each and every one of you. Vancha kalpa tarubhascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. This actually, what do you say, this topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the fifth canto, right? Yeah. The fifth canto, we all know that the Bhagavatam deals with the 10 subject matter, right? And in that 10 subject matter, the one of the subject matter is portion, is the plenary plenary portion about the Bhumandala or the cosmic manifestation. And this Srimad Bhagavatam, the fifth canto, deals with that. It describes how all the planets are located and what is the division and subdivision of all that, so and so forth. That is all being mentioned. So this Bhagavatam fifth canto deals with that subject matter that describes that how the plenary portions or the cosmic manifestation are being placed. Now here we are in the subject matter, we are in the context where Maharaj Priyavrata's activities is being described. So in the fourth canto, just to set up the context, in the fourth canto, the whole dynasty of Uttanapad was being described. And from Uttanapad, like he has two wives, Suruchi, Suniti, and then we know the story of Dhruva Maharaj, and then how Dhruva Maharaj he went to the forest, guided by Narad Muni, want to get the kingdom which is greater than that of his great-grandfather. So this whole thing of the whole pastime of Dhruva Maharaj was described by Sukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. But after describing this whole dynasty of Uttanapat, Sukadev Goswami now describes about Priyavrata. So Swayambhu Manu has two sons. So from Brahma comes Swayambhu Manu, and from Swayambhu Manu has two sons, that is Priyavrata and Uttanapat. And then he has three daughters, Akuti, Devuti, and Prasuti. And but he has already described about Uttanapat. Now he'll be describing about Priyavrata Maharaj. So the another son of Swayambhu Manu. But when he heard that how Priyavrata Maharaj has renounced everything, when Parikshit Maharaj heard this, there was a doubt, there was some question that aroused in his heart, and he asked Sukdev Goswami. So the first question he asked, that how could King Priyavrata, who is Mahabhagavat, he great devotee, how could he enjoy his household life? Because he has already renounced everything. So after renouncing everything, how can he just take up the position of being a householder? So what was there in, how come we understand that a Mahabhagavat, because he is not a ordinary jiva, he's a Mahabhagavat, right? He's Atma Rama. So how could he just leave all his renounced life and accept this householder life? So this was the first question. And the second question, what is Parikshit Maharaj, he asked is that, okay, now when he has accepted that householder life, so how is it possible for him to achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness? Despite being attached with his wife, his home and children, how could again he renounced everything and achieved the perfection of Krishna consciousness? So to hearing these two questions, Sukadev Goswami was very pleased, and he said, yes, I'll definitely try to answer all these questions. And then he started off, and he told about that how Priyavrata Maharaj was so much absorbed. So when one is so much absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna, there is no impediment that can come on its way. So it's just our absorption, it's just our asakti, it's just our attraction that is very, very important. Yes, there are so many obstacles in bhakti, like when we do commit a Vaishnava aparadh, or when even the Lord, if he doesn't desire. So we know that if we perform any kind of offenses, like in the class before also we were reading those 10 offenses that are supposed to be avoided. So if we perform any offense towards a Vaishnava, towards our spiritual master, towards the Vedas, so and so forth, if we perform any kind of offenses, then yes, that's a great obstruction for us in the path of our progress towards bhakti. But there is another thing. And what's that another aspect to it, that how we cannot progress, is when Krishna doesn't desire. So when we perform any kind of devotional service, whether definitely when we perform devotional service, we perform with the heart of pleasing Krishna. But at the same time, Krishna is not obliged to give us the bhakti in return. Krishna is not obliged. Even though we are bhakti yogis, we are following the pattern, we are following the path of bhakti yoga, but still Krishna is not obliged. Krishna is not at all obliged to give us bhakti. Why? Because when Krishna gives bhakti, Krishna has to give himself. Krishna has to give himself to that jiva. Krishna has to become his slave, his servant. That's the position, one when acquires bhakti. So two things, that's what Sukadev Goswami is mentioning. That first is offending a Vaishnava. And when we offend a Vaishnava, definitely we cannot get bhakti. There is no chance. It's the greatest impediment on our path of bhakti. But again, even that can be removed to an extent if the Vaishnava is as merciful to us. So even if we perform any Vaishnava aparadh, if the Vaishnavas are merciful, to a degree, to an extent, it can be avoided. But another thing is the Lord's desire. If the Lord doesn't desire to give us bhakti, then definitely the bhakti cannot come. But here, the absorption of Priyavrata Maharaj was so much towards the Supreme Lord that, and that too, he got that absorption from his spiritual master, Narad Muni, who trained him on this path of renunciation. And that's why he left everything and he just concentrated his mind in Krishna consciousness and focused and absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. But later, we come to know that how Swayambhu Manu, his father, Priyavrata's Maharaj father, he approached, and then his grandfather, that is Brahma, he also come, and then they arrive and they try to convince Priyavrata Maharaj to accept the householder life. And Brahma, then, we know that pastime, that how, we have gone through, every day we are going through this context of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that how Brahma finally convinced Priyavrata Maharaj to accept, the householder life. And Priyavrata also accepts Brahma's request, and finally he took up the position of being a king. So then Sukadev Goswami started answering this question. First question, how Priyavrata Maharaj, he became so much attached, so much attracted towards the worldly affairs, how he took up this life of householder life even after renouncing everything. So there, Sukadev Goswami started narrating that what was the power of Priyavrata Maharaj. So in the previous sessions, we learned that Priyavrata Maharaj, he ruled the kingdom for 11 Arbudas. Okay, that was the time period that he ruled the whole entire Bhumandala. And 11 Arbutas, and one Arbuta is actually 100 million years. That's one Arbuta, and he ruled for 11 Arbutas. So we can just multiply all those mathematicians who are there on the call. They can just get to know that how long Priyavrata Maharaj ruled this entire Bhumandala. And his wife was Bahishmati, and he was very lovable wife, and he was very attracted towards his wife, and he was simply enjoying. Then Priyavrata Maharaj, once he became dissatisfied with the movements of the sun god around Mount Sumeru. So because when the sun was moving, half of the surface of the earth was in dark and the other half was in light. Priyavrata Maharaj was not happy with the movement of the sun, so he took the chariot, and he basically circumambulated this whole Bhumandala with the speed of sun. So that's why Priyavrata Maharaj is sometimes referred to as the second sun. And what he did, that he was not actually trying to compete with the sun, but he just wanted to give the happiness to the inhabitants, of the earth. And then we know that how through the impressions of Priyavrata's chariot wheels, there were 7 islands and 7 oceans were created on Bhumandala. So that we can see in the later subject matter. But then what happened, that after ruling for so many millions and millions of years, Priyavrata Maharaj, he got this realization. He began to consider that, although he had fully surrendered to the great saint Narada, how now he has become entangled in this material activities. So he got this realization that, I had completely renounced everything. It's fine that I took up the order of Brahma and accepted to rule this kingdom. But now I'm seeing myself falling in this Andhakupam. Andhakupam means falling in the ditch of this material enjoyment, in the blind well where you fall and you are simply enjoying the material enjoyments. So he got this and he started considering that what had happened, that I have fallen into this dark ditch well of material enjoyment. Then he said, enough of enjoyment. I don't want any more enjoyment. It looks like that simply I'm dancing like a monkey in the hands of my wife. So that was the realization that came up on to Priyavrata's Maharaj. And therefore, now in this verse that we read, he reawakened to his senses by the Lord's grace. So this is the point I was trying to mention earlier, that first is the offenses, but second is the Lord's grace. If the Lord desires, then yes. And Priyavrata Maharaj is already a Mahabhagavat. So by the Lord's grace, what happened, that he got this realization. And what he did, that he divided all his 7 islands, that he divided the Bhumandala into. He divided that 7 islands to his obedient sons, and he finally renounced everything. He renounced his wife, he renounced his kingdom as if they were a dead body. So to that degree of renunciation, Priyavrata Maharaj was carrying in his heart. Then fully detached, his heart became a place for the pastimes of the Lord. And then he resumed the path of spiritual life that was given by Narada. Now, this is very, very important, that how his heart became a place of pastimes for the Lord. And then he resumed the path of spiritual life that is given by Narada. So this is a very, very important thing that we have to understand, that even Prabhupada mentions that how our heart should be clean. See, if we want to invite somebody to our home, and if we come to know beforehand that some Vaishnavas are coming, what is our first thing? That how I'm going to greet that Vaishnava. Is my home clean? Is there any proper place where I can, offer it for the Vaishnavas to sit, to relax? And then is there proper arrangement of the food that I can offer it to the Vaishnava? All these thoughts goes on and on and on. Now here we are inviting the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take permanent residence in our heart. So do you think that Krishna can come, with the divine couple can come and reside in anyone's heart? No, it's not possible. Definitely the divine couple will also love to come in the heart of those whose heart is totally clean. Only in the clean heart that the name that we chant, that will manifest into guna, rupa, leela, and so on and so forth. So this is what Prabhupada's first point that he mentions in the purport is, that how our heart should be crystal clear. And how can our heart be crystal clear? He is giving the the answer, the solution to it. And what is that? Chaito Dharpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. It's through the chanting of the holy name. Only through the process of chanting the holy name that we will be able to cleanse our heart. If our heart is not clean, then that place cannot be the proper throne for the divine couple to sit and have their wonderful pastimes. The pastimes will not be revealed to us if our heart is not clean. That's what Prabhupada is mentioning. And that can only happen when we perform the strict sadhana. Our bhajan, our sadhana should be very, very strict, should be very, very dedicated, and should be with the motive of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only then, when our heart is clean by the strict sadhana, by our pure chanting, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead can come and reside. So we know that there are 4 offenses, the 4 kind of aparadhas that a person can commit, a jiva can commit. First is the nam aparadh. Nam aparadh, we already heard, there are 10 offenses. Bahu janma kare yadi shravana kirtana. For millions and millions of lifetimes, if we keep on chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Bahu janma kare yadi shravana kirtana tabu tabe na paya Krishna premadhana. But if our nama, if our japa is affected with the offenses to the holy name, then we will never achieve Krishna prema, no matter for how many millions of lifetimes we go on chanting and chanting. So we should be very, very careful. So this is the first aparadha, that is a nam aparad, which is done towards Krishna. Then comes the seva aparad. Seva aparad is done towards Vigraha, towards the deities of Krishna. So when we invite Krishna in the form of a deity and we don't take care of the deities properly, then it becomes the seva aparad. Actually, there are many aparadhas related to it, but the main I'm talking about is the main aparadhas that really hampers our progress into devotional service. Then third is the Vaishnava aparad. So when we do a Vaishnava aparad, we are actually offending the Swarup of Krishna. So Krishna's Swarup is Vaishnavas. We know that all our Guru Vargas, they are representative of Krishna. They are the expansion of the original Adi Guru, Lord Balaram. So when we are doing Vaishnava aparad, then we are offending the Swarup of Krishna. And finally, the Jiva aparad, that is the aparad done to the other living entities. And there we are offending the Tattva part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because who is Jiva? Jiva is the Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we are committing all these aparadhas, definitely we cannot expect any progress in our devotional life. Now, all these aparadhas, they will lead to various kinds of anarthas. That also we know. So we have to really have a control on these anarthas, because if the anarthas are not controlled, then we'll keep on committing lot of aparadhas. And when we keep on committing aparadhas, then definitely we cannot achieve the desired success of our sadhana, which is Krishna Prem. So that is the desired success, right? To achieve the love of Godhead. That cannot be achieved if we keep on committing aparadh. So why and how we commit aparadh is because of the anarth that is present in our heart. So we have to remove that anartha. Now, how the anarthas come? Anarthas may come either from our previous lifetimes, that, previous sins that we have committed, and then it goes into a loop. So those who know something about Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Nectar of Devotion, our dear Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, he mentions so beautifully that how we carry on these anarthas from life after life. Like, for example, I have done some sinful activities. Then naturally, every action will result to an equivalent and opposite reaction. So that reactions will come to me. So from my previous sins, the reaction comes. Now, when the reaction comes, it becomes into prarabdha and aprarabdha, right? So aprarabdha is, which is still in the storehouse of Krishna, is yet to manifest. Is not 100% manifested. It is yet to manifest. But prarabdha is which has already been manifested. So because of my previous sins, I have got my prarabdha karma, means the resultant reaction to my action in the form of prarabdha. How I got it? What type of body I'll get, what type of physical features I'll get, what type of, what country I will get where I'll take birth, what kind of parents will I get, what kind of siblings I'll get. These are all prarabdhas that is manifested because of my previous sinful actions. Now, there are some aprarabdha karma that is still left in the storehouse of Krishna, which will manifest, slowly. It will not manifest all at one time, because if Krishna gives us the reactions of all our sinful reactions, then the point comes is that we will not be able to even sustain our life here. So many sinful actions we have committed, of whose reactions we have still awaited for. So Krishna is, storing some of our reactions in his storehouse, which will manifest slowly and partially. So when we get this prarabdha, so this prarabdha will lead to some kind of another further actions. And those actions will lead to further reactions. So this cycle of goes on and on and on. Now, when I got my prarabdha and still I got some intention to commit more sinful actions, that is the kutam, it goes on and on and on, right? The propensity, the proclivity to perform more sinful reactions, that kutam goes. And now when I have that desire, now the one thing is having that desire to do something wrong, but whether the desire is still a desire or it has manifested into action, that depends. Now, once it has manifested into action, when I commit that sinful action, then again it will lead to another set of prarabdha and aprarabdha. Then again, this is the vicious cycle that goes on in a circle. But it starts with the bijam, the seed that is there, and then it leads to kutam, and then it leads to prarabdha, and then aprarabdha. So this cycle goes on and on and on. It's never ending. But somewhere we have to end, right? Somewhere some solution should be there that we can end this cycle, and that we have to see the root cause of why and how it is happening. So the root cause is avidya, is ignorance. If we remove our avidya and we replace it with knowledge, with spiritual knowledge, then definitely this whole cycle can be cut. There can be a full stop to this cycle, and then we will not be bound or entangled in the cycle of birth and death and committing so many sins and then bearing all those reactions. So the point is that we have to cut down the root cause. So when a plant dies, how the plant dies? The plant dies when the roots are blocked. Right? When the roots are blocked, or when the roots doesn't get a proper space to breathe. So the root is cut, the plant itself is cut. So we have to cut the root of this plant, of this vicious cycle of birth and death that goes on and on and on. So how to cut that root is, the root is ignorance, that we have to cut through knowledge, through the knowledge that comes from our spiritual master. If we accept it, apply it, imbibe it in our life, then definitely we will be able to cut down the avidya part, the ignorance part, and definitely because the ignorance will be removed. So now I will be in the knowledge, in that knowledge that what I am doing, I have got so much knowledge from my spiritual master. So what I'm doing with my life, why I am wasting my human form of life? And as soon as that transcendental knowledge manifests in the heart, we start acting the way we are supposed to act. And that's what happened with Priyavrata Maharaj also. The moment he realized that, he has been simply, enjoying with his wife, and he is being treated, he found himself in the deep dark well of Andhakupam. When he realized that, he immediately gave up. So that realization comes from the spiritual master, because he was associated with Narad Muni for so long. So that realizations pop up one time, and then he gave up everything. It was very easy for him to give up his beautiful wife. And that's what happens in the life of all our jivas also. Brahmande brahmate bhagyavane kaun bhagyavane jiva. We have been Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. So we have been roaming in this Brahmanda brahmite. Kaun bhagyavane jiva. Who is that fortunate soul who is roaming in this Brahmand for life from janmas after janmas? Why? Because from so many millions of lifetime, we have turned our face away from Krishna. We are anadikal bahirmukham. We have turned our face away from Krishna. But now we are that bhagyavana jiva. We are that fortunate soul who have been roaming in this Andhakupam, in this deep dark well of this material enjoyment. But now we have got this Guru Krishna Prasada Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. That bija, that seed of devotional service is now there, which is implanted in our heart by our Guru Janas. So we should think ourselves that we are so fortunate so fortunate that after roaming millions and millions of lifetime in this Brahmanda, now I have got this opportunity to come in contact with my spiritual master, to come in contact with Srila Prabhupada, so that seed is there that is implanted in my heart. Now what I have to do is to take care of the seed. If I fry the seed, if you fry the seed, then if you sow that seed in the soil, then definitely you cannot expect any sprout or any sapling to come out of it. But if you save that seed, you don't fry it, and then you sow the seed in the fertile soil, then the seed will sprout. The beautiful sapling will come out with beautiful leaves, and it will grow on and on and on and on. And then it will pierce the whole material covering, and it will pierce the layers of the spiritual world, and it will finally be reached to Goloka Vrindavan. That is our ultimate goal. And there we can offer the fruit of that creeper of our bhakti that is there, the bhakti lata, the fruit that is grown on that plant. We can offer it onto the lotus feet of our divine couple. But the root thing, again, coming on to the point, is that the seed should not be fried. So we should not fry the seed that has been implanted in our heart in the anarthas or in the offenses. If we fry those seeds in all the kinds of aparadhas, committing aparadhas, by frying the seeds, frying the seeds means that committing all these kinds of aparadhas. So what will happen? The seed will not fructify. It will become a fried seed. It will not fructify. But if the same seed is implanted in the fertile soil, and what is that fertile soil? Is the faith, is the conviction that yes, my Gurudev has implanted, has given me this Bhakti Lata Bija, so let me just nurture it properly. So we'll sow that seed in the fertile soil of our heart. And that fertile soil represents the faith and the conviction in the spiritual master, in following his orders, in following his instructions, at the same time having faith and conviction in the process that is given, the process that has been set, the process that is given by Srila Prabhupada. Having that faith and conviction in that process is the fertile soil in which we can sow the seed. And now when the seed is sown, then we have to water it. We have to water it. And how we can water it? By our chanting, by our sincere, dedicated chanting. When we offer that water to that seed, then definitely the seed will grow. But yes, the sunlight is needed. So that sunlight is the mercy of our Guru Janas. So when that mercy comes in the form of a sunlight, and how that mercy will come, how the sunlight enters into our room, if through the windows, right? Or through the transparent glass doors, it enters. But if we put a thick curtain onto the glass doors or windows, can we expect any sunlight to enter into our room? No. So we ourselves are blocking to that thick curtain. So similarly, the mercy, but sunlight is available, right? We ourselves are blocking the sunlight to enter into our room. Similarly, the mercy of the spiritual master, mercy of Srila Prabhupada, mercy of Gaur Nitai is flooding everywhere, but we are blocking it. How we are blocking it? By not following the instructions of the spiritual master, but by not following the process that is being laid down by Srila Prabhupada. So we ourselves are blocking the sunlight. If we follow the instructions properly, that is being given by Srila Prabhupada, that is being given by our Guru Janas, then that is the sunlight that will help us nurture the seed that is being given to us by our Gurudev. But then we also see that when the plant is sown, there are a lot of weeds that also grow. These weeds are the anarthas. They are growing simultaneously with the bhakti lata. So there is, sometimes the weeds grow to an extent that, we are not able to differentiate also whether it's a weed or it's a real plant. So that's how those weeds of anarthas will grow. We will not even realize in our life that how the weed is growing. We will not even come to the point. Why? Because these weeds are so subtle desires that comes in our life. Even while performing bhakti, the pride comes. Oh, wow, I'm such an exalted person. I can give classes. I can sing such a nice bhajans, and I can remember so many shlokas. This is what, while performing devotional service, these pride, these weeds, these anarthas are coming up. So we have to cut down this. We have to really cut down what with the acts of detachment. We have to really cut down. We have to understand with the acts of detachment, with the acts of knowledge that yes, I'm nothing. Everything is being given to us by the mercy of our Gurudev, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. If I'm able to sing is nothing because of me. I have been blessed with that melodious voice. If I'm able to remember some shlokas, nothing belongs to me. I have been blessed with that that remembrance that is again coming from Krishna. Krishna says that even the prowess that is there in that person is coming from me. The power of remembering or doing anything also comes from Krishna. So if we take that humble position, then definitely with that axe, we can cut down all the weeds, the anarthas, the subtle anarthas that is rising up. So this way we can protect our bhakti lata. But then another last point is that still the garden can be ruined. How that garden can be ruined? Any animal can enter and can ruin this garden. So we have to fence that garden. And how that can be fenced? Through the association of devotees. When we are in the association of devotees, then yes, then we can nurture this garden properly. So we have to fence this bhakti lata, this creeper of devotional service. We have to fence it with the proper association of devotees. It's only through the association of devotees that they will remind us where we are going wrong and how we can improve further in our life, in our progress to our devotional service. So this is very, very important. That association of devotees is the key point that will help us to grow, to let our bhakti lata grow. So, this whole time I was saying bhakti lata, this is the devotional creeper. Why it is known as devotional creeper? Why not tree? So you have seen that how the tree grows. It has a really strong trunk, and you don't have to water it also, and the sunlight definitely is available, but the tree grows, right? And it has a very strong roots and a very strong trunk. But this bhakti is compared to as lata, not as a tree. It is compared to as a creeper. How the creeper grows? You have to nurture it properly. You have to really take care as if you are taking care of a small child. And moreover, how the creeper grows? The creeper needs a support. Okay, you have to tie some rod or some bamboo stick around which that creeper can grow. The creeper otherwise will not grow. That's how the creeper grows, right? It needs a support of something. Only then the creeper can grow. Similarly, our bhakti is compared to as a creeper, not as a tree. It's a creeper. It's a very delicate, tender creeper that needs the support. And that support is the support of Vaishnavas. That support is the support of Guru. That support is the support of Shastras. So through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, taking the support of this, the creeper can grow, can wind itself through all three things, through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. And finally it can grow high up and can penetrate the universe, the layers of this material existence. And there we can offer the fruit of our creeper to our divine couple. So what's the solution is? That solution is to, again, condensing everything to three main points around which the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy revolves, is our Sambandha, is our Abhideya, and is our Prayojana. Keep in mind your goal. keep in mind our prayojana tattva, our prayojana aspect. What is our prayojana? Why we are doing what we are doing? Why every day we are non-stop chanting for 3 to 4 hours in Brahma Muhurta? Why every day we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, why we are singing these Vaishnava songs. It's just not to gain some kind of knowledge. That's not our goal. What is our prayojana? Our prayojana is Krishna Prema. If we keep that prayojana, that goal in our mind, and we work accordingly, next is the Abhidaya. So we have to first develop our sambandha with the Supreme Lord. Who is Krishna? Who are we? What is my relationship with that Supreme Lord? And then what are the activities that I should do to strengthen that relationship? So if we keep in mind this sambandha aspect and then work on it, and that working on that sambandha, keeping in mind the prayojana aspect is what is abhidaya. That is the process of devotional service. Doing that devotional service on to the Supreme Lord, that bhakti has to be performed, and that ananya bhakti has to be performed. And that bhakti which is bereft of any jnana and karma. It should not be a karma mishra bhakti, it should not be a jnana mishra bhakti, but it should be a shuddha, pure bhakti, the unalloyed devotional service, unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service on to the Supreme Lord. That kind of bhakti we should perform. The bhakti which is exclusively for the pleasure of the divine couple. Not the bhakti which is performed in the mode of ignorance or mode of passion or mode of goodness. That kind of bhakti will not yield a desired result. So we have seen in the canto 4 and 3 that how the bhakti can be performed in the mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness. So first of all, the aspect of bhakti is that bhakti can only be performed to Narayan, to Vishnu, or to Krishna. If we are doing any kind of worship towards the demigods, that is not regarded as categorized, quote unquote, as bhakti. Bhakti can be done only to the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Now we saw the case of Daksha. That what he was doing sacrifices. He was performing those sacrificial ceremonies, but to please the Supreme Lord Vishnu. But his bhakti was totally in the mode of ignorance, because while pleasing the Supreme Lord, he offended a Vaishnava. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He offended Lord Shiva. So definitely he performing bhakti is bhakti in mode of ignorance. Then we moved on to the 4th canto. This is the 3rd canto that describes the whole pastime of Daksha. And then we saw that how the bhakti can be performed in passion. And the example is given in the 4th canto of Dhruva Maharaj. How Dhruva Maharaj was also performing bhakti. He wants to please Narayana as per the instructions of his mother Suniti. He left everything, he went to the forest, he was performing that bhakti, but that bhakti was also not a pure bhakti. That bhakti was mixed with passion. Why? Because he wants to have the kingdom greater than that of his great-grandfather Brahma. So he wants that kingdom. So that bhakti was performed in a mode of passion. Though Narad Muni instructed him, but still, he was in that heart that, oh, I want that kingdom. I was feeling insulted. So actually when Dhruva Maharaj, he went to Narad Muni and he told everything. Narad Muni, he came, and then Dhruva Maharaj then disclosed everything to Narad Muni, that this is what has happened, and I felt so insulted that I was not allowed to sit on the lap of my father, and I was stopped by my stepmother Suruchi. And then Narad Muni, just out of test, he said, oh, you are just a child, Dhruva. So this is all childish thing. Today your father rejected, maybe tomorrow he will accept you. So why you came into the forest? Why you took it so deep in your heart? This is just the childish thing, and you are just a 5-year-old child. Tomorrow you can try. Tomorrow maybe your mother can allow, maybe your father accepts you and make you sit on his lap. So it's just a childish thing. You just go back to your home. And then Dhruva Maharaj said, no, I cannot, I'm not that child, I really felt that insult. And I am a grown-up person, though he was just 5 years old. But he said that, oh no, I cannot bear it. I really felt insulted. And then Dhruva Maharaj said, then Narad Muni said, okay, if you think that you are not a child and it's not a childish thing anymore, then also, and if you think that you are quite self-realized, then also for you, honor and dishonor should not make any difference. If self or self-realized soul, they are equipoised, they are sthita pragya, right? They are equipoised in both distress and happiness. So then also, what's there in it that your father rejected? It's just a thing. Why you feel insulted, why you are feeling so much dishonor. For you, dishonor and honor should not, it should not make any difference. But then Dhruva Maharaj said, he was just a Dhruva at that time, and he said, I respect whatever you say, oh my Narad Muni, oh spiritual master. I accept whatever you say. Whatever you are saying is right. But please try to understand, neither I'm that child where I can forget that insult, neither I'm that self-realized person where I can take equally the honor and dishonor that comes as the will of the providence. I cannot accept that. So please guide me so that I can fulfill my desire. So it was just a test that was, that was given by Narad Muni. And finally, he was, initiated into the mantra. But his service towards the devotional service towards Lord Vishnu, pleasing Lord Vishnu, was also not on the pure level. It was in the mode of passion, because he had some material desire to be fulfilled. And then we saw the mode of goodness, and we saw the whole pastime of Prithu Maharaj. That was also in the devotional service in the mode of goodness. But what a devotee, what a bhakti yogi is expected is to perform devotional service, which is on a Shuddha level. Anya vilashita shunyam jnana karma anavritam. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakti Uttama. We have to perform that pure devotional service onto the Supreme Lord. And only then we will be able to have the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Divine Couple, to take permanent residence in our heart. And only then we will be able to witness the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Here it has been mentioned, right, that after the translation says, thus he was able to return, to the path of Krishna consciousness, spiritual life, and resume the position that he had attained by the grace of the great Saint Narada. So so Prabhupada is saying that pastimes will only happen when our heart is cleansed. And then last point that I want to discuss here, that Prabhupada is mentioning, quoting this wonderful verse from Chaitanya Shikshashtakam, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. That, some renunciants, those who are not on to the level of devotional service, they say, okay, I don't want wealth, this is all waste. I don't want sundarim, I don't want any number of followers, nothing. That's fine, we are renouncing everything. But that renunciation should be on to the pure level. It should not be in the mode of ignorance or passion. That today I'm renouncing everything, but tomorrow, some trigger happens and again I'm back to my normal position. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that when we say, oh Krishna, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamai. We don't want anything, Krishna. Whatever comes as the will of the providence, we'll accept it. But at the same time, we should keep forward our spiritual desire. That is what is our prayojana. So we have to keep forward that spiritual desire, and that's what Mahaprabhu is teaching us. Mama janmani janman ishware bhavatad bhaktir ahitu kitoi. At the same time, we have to tell Krishna, okay, I don't want all this, but what I want, please listen to that also. I want ahituki bhakti. I want uninterrupted, unmotivated bhakti onto your lotus feet. So this is the proper process. If we are renouncing everything, that detachment is there, Definitely, it should be there. That renunciation should be there. We should pray for that renunciation also. Please, Krishna, help me so that I can remove that asakti from this material world and have that asakti transformed into your name, into your pastime, into your service. That asakti, that attachment should be for you, Krishna. So yes, I want to renounce everything, but please bless me with that ahituki bhakti. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us through his Shikshashtakam. So we have to be very clear what we are asking from the Supreme Lord. So thank you all so much. I'll stop here. I don't know what I spoke. Does it make sense to any one of you? Because it was such a spontaneous and it was such a random class. So please forgive me if I, spoke something which is not relevant to the subject matter. But if anything that was pleasurable to your ears, please think that everything is coming from Srila Prabhupada's purport and of course from all our acharyas. So thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll request if others want to add something or correct something or share your realizations, please go ahead. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ira Mataji. Thank you so much. Beautiful class you gave, Mataji. That was very nice. Yashamagori Mataji, please go ahead. You want to say something? Okay, she will be back. Yeah, Mataji, you gave very beautiful points. It was a very beautiful, at the same time, very powerful class, Mataji. Beautiful class you gave, although it was a last minute change, but nice class. I request devotees if they have any questions or comments for Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what a beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the call and accepting requests very last minute, and very, very nice explanation, Mataji. Means whatever you heard, the whole chapter, you summarized the whole chapter, and you explained the importance of bhakti and the renunciation, and so nice, Mataji. Everything is so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shamagori Mataji. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you to you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Mataji. Very, very beautiful class. Very nice. We explain everything very nicely about the devotional service. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sundari Mataji. It's so good to see you, and thank you so much for such a beautiful class. It was so wonderful how you reminded us of, from the very beginning of the fourth canto and moving us through, because there were several things that I realized as you were speaking that I had forgotten all about, and so you just connected everything so beautifully for us. And the class was so inspiring. This is Krishna's mercy that you're here with us today, because it was I feel uplifted, and I'm really grateful for that. So thank you so very much. It was so beautiful. And I love the analogy of the fried seed. we have to take care of that bhakti lata bij, and take care of it and nurture it, and with chanting and service and association. So thank you so very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Tiffany Mataji, and I'm so happy always to see you with your smiling face that you always have.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Vrinda Gopika Mataji is trying to say something, but I can't hear. Mataji.
Please forgive me. Unmute. Anantakoti Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Mataji, how nicely you explain about the creepers need the support, and that support is Vaishnava Association. And every day hearing Shashi Bhagavatam and Shashi Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charamrut, that direct effect to our japa. Guru Krishna Pasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Mataji, how nicely you narrating the class today. It's touched to heart to not only me, each and every Vaishnava, Mataji. Power pack class, Mataji. And you explain of 84,000 yoni mein se pasar hoke, now we get the birth of humana. So we should not waste single minute 24 hours, like Haridas Thakur is chanting, we have to chant attentively. And after initiation, oh, I get initiation, so I'm free from responsibility. No, after initiation, you have to take a responsibility. Now your body, you offer to your spiritual master, you follow the instruction of them and Srila Prabhupada. So we have to work hard, like you are a preacher, so you give more and more efforts. I have seen that 10-15 books are there and you are preaching research. Now Mataji, it is very easy language you explain that chant attentively our round in a Brahma Murata, then it's directly affect whatever we are doing the seva. Ananta Koti Dandavat Pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga. Thank you, Mataji. Please every week come and give Shishi Bhagavatam class and shower your mercy to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Thanks to your sincerity. You are waking up early in the morning, chanting your rounds, and you are walking whatever you are saying. You are walking your talk, Mataji. So thank you and your glories to you. Hare Krishna.
Dear devotees, are there any more questions or comments for Mataji? Mataji, I had a small question. You mentioned that how King Priyavrata, although he was in the material, he had started to enjoy the material things, but because of his mercy of his spiritual master, he got the remembrance of Krishna. So can we say that that was missing in King Bharat Maharaj, that because he had not taken the decision under the guidance of his
Yes.
senior?
The main part that Bharat Maharaj was missing, though he was also on a Mahabhagavat level and he has already achieved the stage of Bhava Bhakti, right? So what was missing was association. If he would have been in the association of devotees, somebody would have reminded him, hey, why you are getting attached to the deer? This is not the prayojana, this is not the goal of your life. So somebody would have reminded. So that's why in our life also we need some kind of spiritual buddies. We need someone who can always shake us and remind us that here we are going wrong. So we need those counselors in our life. And that is what the association is. Association of devotees is not just hanging out around. Association is where they can correct us, they can guide us, and they can warn us that this is the way that, here is the thing that you are going wrong. So kindly correct it. That's what the association is. Association is just not hanging around. So that's what was missing in the case of Bharat Maharaj. Right? Yeah.
Thank you.
You rightly pointed. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Yes.
Thank you, Mataji. Are there any more questions or comments? Please go ahead.
Okay. I thought that there is some question in the chat, but no. Okay. Anyone else has any realized
comment?
There are wonderful comments for you in the chat.
Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah, comments are nice, Mataji, on the chat box. So if no one has any questions, we can end.
All those comments to my Gurudev.
Okay, so if nobody has any question, Mataji, with your permission, shall we end the call?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for a wonderful class. Last minute, you gave a wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much. And we are very grateful to you. And we look forward to your association again, Mataji, for Srimad Bhagavatam classes. I would like to pay my obeisances to Mataji and all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Jai.
Her Grace Kirtidas.
Mataji ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Very, very beautiful.
Thank you,
class,
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for such a beautiful class. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you so
Koti
much.
Koti Dandavat Pranam.
Mataji, can you close Hindu Mataji? Mataji. Can you close the call?